My name is John Sadler, and I'm president of Sadler Sports and Recreation Insurance. If you're a director, officer, or other administrator of a sports organization and you're interested in implementing an effective risk management program with the least amount of effort and expense, you're in the right place. Many of our insurance clients have told us that they'd like to implement a formal risk management program, but they don't really know where to start and need some guidance. Others have purchased a book or even attended a seminar on sports risk management and are intimidated by the task of customizing their own written program with all of the forms and time-consuming documentation. It's been my experience that most risk management programs are too long and complicated and are never implemented to any great degree. For this reason, I believe it's the best approach to take for most sports organizations to spend the greatest amount of time on the bare essentials that, if fully implemented, will have the biggest impact on injury prevention and the reduction of liability. In this video, I'll introduce a framework for a basic, intermediate, and advanced sports risk management program. You can select which one makes the most sense based on your situation. Sadler Sports and Recreation Insurance will provide the tools that you need to implement all of these programs. I'll frequently refer to the risk management section of our website at www.sadlersports.com as a place where you can find sample forms, risk management programs, important articles, and other instructional videos on sports insurance and risk management. When I say go to our website, you'll know to look under the risk management section. Also, when I refer to staff, I'm talking about either your employee or volunteer workers, including coaches, managers, umpires, referees, concession workers, field maintenance workers, and so forth. When I refer to administrators, I'm talking about your directors, officers, or other personnel who plan, manage, and supervise your overall operations. This video was designed for both adult and youth sports organizations. If all of your participants are adult, just ignore the sections that cover abuse, molestation, risk management issues for youth. I've spent hundreds of hours studying the formal textbook risk management process, which stresses that you key in on injury prevention first and insurance last. However, for sports organizations, particularly those that are volunteer run, I deviate from the textbook because we need to be realistic about what can actually be implemented in the real world. The first, most important, and easiest step in my process is to buy the best, most comprehensive insurance that's available, period. But don't stop there like the majority of sports organizations. You still need a risk management program to prevent injuries. Let me explain why. Even if your insurance does ultimately cover the claim and protect everyone's assets, it's a terrible thing when someone is unnecessarily injured under your watch. If you have a serious injury in litigation, you, your program, and your reputations can get a black eye in the community as well as in the local media. Those who go through depositions and litigations will tell you that it's a terrible experience because you always get beat up and are made to look bad. If you are in litigation, it looks good if you have a risk management program, as it shows the judge and jury that you care. A final factor is that you want to prevent injuries to protect your loss record under your insurance policies to help prevent non-renewal or rate increases. The second step is to contractually transfer the risk of loss to another party whenever feasible, such as through waiver release forms. The third step is to avoid high-risk activities that are not essential to your operations and that could result in serious injuries. Common examples of activities that most sports organizations should avoid are transportation of players and overnight sleepovers. The fourth and final step is to prevent or reduce the frequency or severity of injuries before they occur. A traditional sports risk management program can be effective by concentrating on your facilities, equipment, instruction, supervision, sports injury care, and the use of autos. We're going to review the framework for basic, intermediate, and advanced risk management plans. You need to choose a plan that's right for your sports organization based on a number of factors. The first factor is the size of your sports organization in terms of number of participants. Generally, the larger the number of participants, the greater the need for an intermediate or advanced program. Likewise, sports organizations that own their own premises or facilities have a greater need for an intermediate or advanced program. The nature of the particular sport can also be a factor. Some higher risk sports, such as gymnastics, diving, football, or cheer, will require more staff training or equipment controls, and as a result, an intermediate or advanced plan would be recommended. And finally, you need to take into account your available staff resources in terms of selecting a risk management officer and time commitment of staff. Our website will include a sample of a basic, intermediate, and advanced risk management program that you can easily adapt and customize to meet your needs. You need to understand that risk management and safety programs can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, the national standards of care, as indicated in textbooks and described by expert witnesses, will state that sports organizations should have a formal written program. If you don't, it'll be argued by the plaintiff's attorney that you're negligent for falling below the national standard, and it will look bad to the jury when the attorney points out that failure to have a program shows that you don't care. On the other hand, if you have a written risk management program but fail to follow one of your own required safety rules that results in an injury and lawsuit, the plaintiff's attorney will argue that it's an obvious case of negligence and will likely prevail. Since the plaintiff's attorney will be out to get you either way, in my opinion, it's best to still have a written risk management plan, but to take some precautions in its design. First, never call it a safety program. Safety programs are meant to protect participants and spectators, and it looks especially bad if you don't follow one of your own written safety rules, and if doing so could have prevented the injury. Instead, call it a risk management program, as risk management programs are meant to merely reduce the liability of a sports organization. If you don't follow your own risk management program to the exact letter, despite your best intentions, you can argue that it was not meant to protect the safety of the participants and spectators, but instead was meant to protect the sports organization against lawsuits. Second, if you don't have the staff to fully implement, monitor, and correct deficiencies under a formal written program, it's best to adopt the basic or intermediate framework instead of the advanced framework, since the advanced framework is much more detailed and requires much more staff time. The first step is for the sports organization to appoint a formal position known as the risk management officer, who is responsible for implementing, monitoring, and taking corrective action on all issues related to the risk management program. Like any officer, the risk management officer should answer to the board, but should be empowered to make all day-to-day decisions on issues related to hazards, including the modification or halting of practice and/or play if necessary. In my opinion, it's best if the risk management officer is solely dedicated to risk management and has no other duties. However, in smaller sports organizations, this may not be possible, and the risk management officer position may be combined with another officer position. The coaches, managers, and other staff members should be an extension of the risk management officer by way of their presence at every practice and game, and should be in close contact with the risk management officer should any problems arise, such as physical hazards or unsafe acts. The risk management officer must self-train on all applicable videos, programs, reports, and articles found under the risk management section on our website. It's also recommended that additional training be received from other resources. Under the basic risk management framework, the second step is to carry comprehensive insurance policies that meet or exceed certain minimum standards. Almost all sports organizations, from the smallest team to the largest league, should carry accident, general liability, directors and officers liability, crime, and equipment policies. Larger organizations with more complex operations that have employees and own vehicles and buildings may also need workers' compensation, auto, and property insurance. It's beyond the scope of this video to describe each of these policies in detail. However, the risk management section of our website includes an article entitled How to Avoid the 7 Deadly Sins When Buying Sports Insurance that provides an excellent explanation of why you need each policy type. It's not enough to just have the proper policies in place. You need to take the extra step to make sure that the coverages really give you the protection that you need. Many popular accident and general liability policies that are sold by both local insurance agents and so-called sports insurance experts contain some unacceptable policy exclusions that can leave you wide open in the event of a lawsuit. The best way to protect against this is to tap into the coverage checklist tools under the risk management section of our website. You simply hand the checklist over to your existing insurance agent and require them to complete it for you and to sign their name. This shifts all of the work from you to your insurance agent. You need to be aware that our checklist outlines minimum standards only. If your governing or sanctioning body has higher requirements, or if you can find insurance that exceeds these minimum standards, you should buy it. Don't skimp on the quality of your insurance, and don't blindly rely on your insurance agent to protect you. Always go the extra mile to use the checklist tools. The third step is to contractually transfer the financial responsibility of paying for losses. The first place to start is with your participant registration forms. It's critical that all of your participants sign a waiver and release of liability form to protect your sports organization and its people against lawsuits whenever there's an injury to a participant. Having a waiver release form on file is not a magic cure-all that takes the place of liability insurance, but it's definitely worth the paper it's written on, as explained in detail by the article on our website. Not all waiver release forms will gain an advantage for you, as most have defects in the way that they were drafted. The language must avoid 10 common pitfalls that courts use to invalidate them. We have sample forms on our website that were designed by law firms that specialize in defending clients against sports-related lawsuits. Every phrase and every word in these forms exist for a reason that's to your advantage. I recommend that you scrap your existing forms and use our recommended forms with the approval of your legal counsel. In addition, you should always require your participants to sign an emergency information and medical consent form in the event they're injured and require emergency medical treatment at a hospital. A copy of this form should be kept on file in a centralized location by the sports organization, and the original should be maintained in the possession of the coach or manager and should be stored in a secure and readily accessible location, such as the trunk of a vehicle. And of course, we have an excellent sample form available on our website. An image release form will protect against potential lawsuits where the image of a participant has been photographed or videotaped and is used in the marketing materials for the sports organization. In the past, there have been some cases where such participants have sued for invasion of privacy or undue publicity. Whenever you lease your facilities to a third party, or you lease facilities from a third party, you should have a written lease agreement that specifies the terms of the lease. Such an agreement should have a hold harmless indemnification provision that is fair to both parties. We have an excellent website article on this topic entitled Before You Sign the Sports Facility Agreement. It will explain how hold harmless and indemnification provisions offer protection and will provide sample hold harmless and indemnification provisions for your consideration. In addition, the lease agreement should require the party that is the tenant to carry general liability insurance with a limit of at least $1 million and should name the landlord as additional insured. Whenever you invite an outside team to play against a team from your sports organization or you host a tournament, you need to make sure you're protected. You should have a written agreement that has a hold harmless indemnification provision in your favor and require the visiting teams to carry general liability insurance with a limit of at least $1 million, naming your sports organization as an additional insured. Many sports organizations subcontract out parts of their operations to vendors or service providers such as umpire associations, concession vendors, janitorial, security, and field maintenance. Written agreements should be in place that specify the terms of service and the responsibility for injury to workers and third parties. The agreement should have a hold harmless indemnification provision that is favorable to your sports organization and an insurance requirements provision that protects your sports organization. See our website article entitled Collect Certificates of Insurance from Your Vendors for an excellent summary of the insurance coverages that should be carried by your vendor or service provider. The fourth step is to implement an abuse molestation risk management program. This critical topic is so important that we've devoted an entire separate video that explains how to set up a program from A to Z. I strongly recommend that you view this video, which can be found under the risk management section of our website. The fifth step is to avoid certain high-risk activities because they're not essential to the operations of most sports organizations and they've been proven to result in serious injuries. The first on the list is transporting athletic participants. This risk has a high severity potential as auto injuries tend to be serious and it's likely that multiple passengers will be injured. For this reason, it's best to leave the transportation to the parents. However, if your sports organization must be involved with the transportation of participants, the risk can be mitigated by running motor vehicle record checks on drivers and by proper vehicle selection. The next is the use of 15-passenger vans that are rented or borrowed for transporting participants. This is a bad idea for the reasons already mentioned, plus 15-passenger vans are extra dangerous due to their high tip-over propensity as documented by warnings from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The fact that many state statutes prohibit their use for the transportation of students and that churches are phasing them out should tell you something about their risk. We have an excellent article on this topic on our website. Also, 12-passenger vans and SUVs don't fare much better than 15-passenger vans. If participants must be transported, it should be done in vehicles such as a school bus, 7-passenger minivans, or private passenger cars. Serving alcoholic beverages can result in problems for obvious reasons. If alcohol at an event must be served, the liability risk should be transferred by subcontracting this function to a bartending company that can provide a certificate of insurance evidencing liquor liability coverage in the amount of at least $1 million. Certain fundraisers are considered by the insurance industry to be high risk, such as dunk tanks and inflatables. And finally, the biggest source of deaths and serious injuries to my clients over the past 20 years has been swimming parties, both at the homes of staff members and at motels without lifeguards. We've had serious problems with these even when multiple adult staff members were supervising the pool. If you must have a swimming party, I would only do it at a location that provides a trained and certified lifeguard. Overnight sleepovers present an opportunity for child sexual predators to make advances on youth participants. If sleepovers must be conducted due to tournament travel, steps should be taken to run background checks on all staff and require all youth to be supervised by 2 adults who are in each other's presence at all times. The 6th step is to conduct a mandatory staff meeting prior to the start of the season to review common sense risk management policies and procedures. None of these are rocket science, but they do cover the majority of what can go wrong in a very generalized way. I'm not going to review all of these bullet points, but a more detailed version of suggested policies and procedures will be provided as part of the sample risk management plans on our website. The major weakness with the basic sports risk management program is that some of your staff will not have the experience or training to fully execute all of these instructions. For example, a first-time coach may not know exactly what problems to look for when inspecting facilities or equipment. This is why I recommend the intermediate risk management program over the basic program. The next step up is the framework for the intermediate sports risk management program. I hope that all viewers will at least achieve this level. The intermediate program consists of all elements of the basic program plus the addition of awareness training for all administrators and staff. Awareness training is an overview of the physical hazards and unsafe acts that most frequently lead to injuries and resulting lawsuits. It also includes guidance on the standards of care that the law requires of administrators and staff when performing their job functions. It's important to note that the intermediate risk management program does not impose absolute requirements in the form of to-do list and checklist, as is the case in the advanced risk management program. Instead, the intermediate program is just meant to raise the awareness of the standards of care so that all administrators and staff will be better able to recognize hazards and respond to them. Awareness training can either be delivered through viewing a web video or by reading a handout. Sadler Sports and Recreation Insurance will provide both of these formats to our clients through our risk management webpage. The awareness training that we provide is not sports specific, but instead is generalized to apply to most sports organizations conducting standard sports that are typically available through community-based local leagues and/or recreation departments. It's not geared towards extreme sports or outdoor adventure sports. It's important that you're able to document the training of your administrators and staff by requiring them to sign a statement of completion that you keep on file. Awareness training keys in on the important risk management standards required by the courts for all aspects of a sports program. For both your facilities and equipment, our awareness training program will key in on the points outlined on this screen. Most of this is just common sense for those with prior experience, but many of your new coaches will be exposed to these concepts for the first time. For supervision and instruction awareness training, here's the outline of what our program covers. Lack of supervision is the #1 leading category of sports-related lawsuits. This training will really help your staff visualize what can go wrong and will help them to recognize and react to risky situations. Here's the outline of our awareness training for sports injury care and the use of autos. These are critical areas where failure to follow accepted standards of care can result in major liability. The awareness training for sex abuse and molestation is of such importance that it will be broken out into its own separate document and web video. Here's an outline of what will be covered. This awareness training program will definitely create a hostile environment for sexual predators and will drive them away from your program. It's critical, in my opinion, to provide this awareness training in addition to merely running background checks. The reason is that it is believed that most child predators don't have a criminal background that would be detected upon running a check. As a result, merely running a background check is not enough to protect your children. We have some articles on our website about the special topics listed on this screen that should be a required part of your awareness training. Not every article will apply to all sports organizations. Based on my personal experience, I would say that the 30-30 lightning safety rule is the most overlooked risk management rule in all of sports, and most administrators and staff need training on this. This final framework is the Advanced Sports Risk Management Program. This framework will provide the most protection against liability if you have the staff resources to give it the attention that it requires. This framework incorporates everything in the intermediate program plus detailed written requirements that are customized specifically for your facility and sport, as well as the management structure to carry them out. This is basically taking the concepts learned in awareness training and committing them to writing in the form of mandatory requirements. For example, under the advanced program, you would develop specific checklists for facility inspection and equipment inspection based on the exact hazards posed by your facility and sport. No two facilities or sports are exactly the same. Therefore, the development of an advanced program will require some additional man-hours on your part as compared to the intermediate program. We'll provide a sample of an advanced program on our website, but there's no way that we can do the customization work for you. Furthermore, once you put a requirement in writing, you may have liability if you fail to follow your own requirement. We've already discussed steps you can take in your program design that can help to reduce such liability. For example, you should call your program a risk management program instead of a safety program. However, you really shouldn't use the advanced framework unless you intend to fully implement, monitor, and correct deficiencies. Now that you're aware of the most common problem areas that lead to sports injuries and litigation and what's expected of you under the national standards, hopefully you're in a better position to identify potential hazards and to take appropriate action. For more resources on sports risk management, please be sure to check out the risk management section of our website at www.sadlersports.com. I appreciate the time that you've invested on this very important matter. Thanks, and be sure to protect yourself.